Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining Oblivion. So our whole mission is basically to get out narratives by people of color, and you've obviously been through a very traumatic experience that is not, unfortunately, uncommon in the Black community. You filmed your friend, Freddie Gray, being brutally handled by law enforcement, which resulted in his death. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of psychological impact of that moment and sort of engaging in like the topic of police brutality, especially as it's been on the rise in the mainstream media?
My name is Kevin Moore. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I filmed the death of my friend, Freddie Gray, and it's been pretty tough. Actually, it's been really tough. It's been probably, honestly, the most toughest thing I've ever done in my life, to like stand there and watch not just a friend, but just another human being. It was the worst, man. You know, you didn't know whether to stay, to go. You didn't know, what to do. So at that time, it was like, man, you got to make a split-second decision, And in my case, it was to pull my camera out and to start recording. And I feel like me doing that has shed a light on this dark area of police brutality and the fact that it exists, because there's a lot of people around the world that see stuff on TV and it's like, oh, they're acting it out, or it could never happen to me, or I won't put myself in a place like that. But you just never know, And when involved with the police or like engaged in a stop, it's best for you to like have a camera or be somewhere public where around people and just for your own safety. But yeah, when it came to Freddie, man, it was a crazy thing. When I never thought, that I would be recording someone's death, let alone someone that I knew. So that in itself gave me PTSD. Can't really sleep at night. Never really was a night owl. I was the type of person I always needed my 8 hours of sleep, But after that, it was like, man, the screams that I heard, it was just like a constant replay every night, And so it's myself for doing it, but at the same time, it needed to be done, And so that was kind of like my pivotal moment where I got started with the Cop Watch.
So do you think, since your involvement in Cop Watch, just being aware of like the continuation of brutality, that you've to some extent been desensitized to the topic, or do you think you feel it more than you did before, your own experience and before the outbreak of the media attention?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both, I'll say. It's kind of like, on the one hand, I know this was for good and this is meant to help people and, shed light on this. And then on the other hand, it's like, man, I got family to worry about, I got 3 children, and am I willing to put myself in this position where I got to come out and I got to risk my freedom, risk my life, and is it really worth it? But I believe if you're not willing to fight for freedom, then what are you willing to fight for? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, on one token, things might not change immediately, but in the long run, I feel like cop watching it will serve as a deterrent, and police stops, and the fact that people don't understand that they have rights, the fact that you can say, I do not consent to this conversation. I do not consent to a body search. You know what I mean? Am I free to go? These are things that you might want to implement when you're involved in a police stop that could possibly save a life or your life.
I asked this in here, but I just, out there, so out there at the panel, but I kind of want to hear your take on it, because you didn't answer this question in particular, but do you think, given, I think Cop Watch understands that there needs to be education on citizens' rights, and we need to know how to prepare ourselves in the case of coming into contact with law enforcement in a negative way. So, in terms of race, how do you think education, if it were to be implemented in schools, how do you think that would look like? Would it be different based on district, the particular area? If it was predominantly white versus if it was predominantly black and poor. Do you think that there would just inherently be a differentiation of how you would react to a police officer given that your environment?
Right. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, when you're put in certain situations, right, and you're given next to scraps, next to nothing, it's like, what else can we possibly do but fight over, the little that we do have, I feel like without the carriage, people need to stand up for what's right, and that means racial or otherwise, it's like, well, how do you base your life around a dream? You know what I mean? When you're living in this false reality that these laws are so righteous, and that the government can do no wrong, and it's all false. And so when you try to wake a person up initially, there's going to be some type of resistance. You know what I mean? They're not going to believe you right offhand. They're going to have to live it. And like we were talking about earlier, it's a lot of people that haven't been outside of the suburbs and the the preppy side of life, and so they couldn't possibly relate. But at the same time, I encourage you to come down to Baltimore City, see how we live. Come down to Baruch Projects down in New York City. See how we get along with the police. See how hard it is to come outside and not be targeted. You know what I'm saying? Just because you wear a certain color shirt, or just because you wear, you like your jeans a little bit baggier than everyone else, watch how you're categorized, And so it's like, why is there so much hate when we say fuck the police? When you and this one bad apple spoils the bunch, then but that's a two-way street. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's his officer, so-called good officer, and he don't say anything, you're just as bad as he is. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of taboo because people don't like really talking about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so when you get people that don't want to talk or don't want to wake up, you know what I mean? That's just them protecting the system in their own way. And the fact that they believe in these blue stars and stripes in America, and dude, the White House built on the backs of slaves. You know what I'm saying? And we just said this plenty of times tonight. Police were runaway slave patrol. You know what I mean? They weren't put in place to help us. And so when you think about this, all the way back from the 1800s, all the way back from the 1900s, what the fuck has changed from then until now? I'm still fighting on the same battlegrounds for the same equity, for the same equality. I mean, look at what they did to Rodney King. Look how bad they beat that man. And look at the charges that the officers, were charged with, and were they convicted? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the questions that you need to ask your government. You understand? Like, when you see something like this, and it doesn't have to be a black man, it could be a white man. You know what I'm saying? When you see a person that's beaten to death or, brutalized by police, and nothing happens to this officer, that doesn't strike you as odd?
I had a conversation the other day with a friend, and it was part of a dialogue series that I run about race and gender and sexuality and all these things, but the topic was police brutality. And he was saying that, it's not scary because these things have existed. It's because they seem like they're spreading, you know?
Mhm.
You don't see brutality just in white victims now. You don't see just white male cop shooting. You see a, you know, Caucasian cop shot a black man. So you just see these issues manifesting in different ways, and it's sort of like turbulent and
Yep.
and it's scary now. you
Well,
know?
I mean, when you're subject to a life that you think, you know, is how the rest of the world lives. You know, you were brought up in these white schools, and you were brought up and you were taught that George Washington was the first president, and you were taught that, you know, a lot of different things. You know, you were taught that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, but were you taught the reason why? You know what I mean? Everybody wants to slay Obama and Obama this and Obama that. Obama did what he could do. You know, that's 2 Bush eras he has to work through. You know what I mean? And then a Clinton era. You know, and so what did you think that was going to happen? Did you think he was going to be like this superhero Negro and change the world? Did you really think that was going to happen? Because if so, he'd have been another John F. Kennedy. You know what I mean? They kill people for less. So for you to want Obama to wake his people up, you know what I'm saying? That seemed like a little selfish to me, because they're going to kill that man behind that. You know what I mean? They don't want too much of the truth. Too much of the truth is bad for them, because they know that all of these little secret societies and all of that shit is going to be brought to light. You know what I mean? So when you talk about the government, you can't say government without saying Mason, without saying Illuminati, without saying Skull and Bones, without saying all of these different secret societies that they don't want us to know about, because these secret societies are the bread and butter. These are the people that actually initiate, you know, these